Chapter 2479. Yang Kai's eyes suddenly widened as he stared at him in horror, asking in a trembling voice, What do you mean? You don't mean to say that the master... He's not dead yet, right? Wu Mengchuan knew that he had a slip of the tongue due to his emotions just now, so he just stared coldly at Yang Kai with a murderous look on his face. A chill suddenly came from the soles of his feet, causing Yang Kai to shiver uncontrollably. The heaven-devouring Great Emperor was a legend, but this legend was killed by the joint forces of the Great Emperors in the Shattered Star Sea. But now, Wu Mengchuan actually revealed some unusual information. If it was someone else who said this, Yang Kai might not take it seriously, but Wu Mengchuan was the descendant of the Great Emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, so his words were more or less justified. If the Great Emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor were not dead, then all this was just too crazy. After tens of thousands of years of dormancy, what were the Great Emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor doing? And for what? Yang Kai swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This king didn't want to kill you so easily because you are a promising talent, but now it seems that you must die. Wu Mengchuan shouted in a deep voice as he suddenly clenched his fist and blasted it in the direction of Yang Kai. The fist intent broke through the barrier and crushed the void with infinite power. His eagerness to kill made Yang Kai feel more and more uneasy, wondering if his guess just now was correct. After Wu Mengchuan made his move, Yang Kai could not help but be shocked. Because this guy's strength was extremely good, definitely not something an ordinary Dao Source Realm cultivator could compare to. It could even be said that he had surpassed the level of Dao Source Realm. Even Wu Chang and Xia Sheng, who were rising stars of the younger generation, they might not necessarily have Wu Mengchuan's heritage, as expected of the descendant of the great emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor. Even if he had been cultivating on his own all these years, he was not necessarily worse than those elites. However, although Wu Mengchuan was powerful, Yang Kai was not to be trifled with. Seeing the fist coming towards him, he did not dodge but met it with a punch of his own. Asterisk Hong long 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 long. Asterisk the sound of an explosion rang out, and the chaotic energy swam between the two of them. They collided. Wu Mengchuan was taken aback, and was slightly shocked. Yang Kai's strength had also surprised him. He was well aware of his own strength. Ordinary Dao Source Realm masters were no match for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill so many people in the Shattered Star Sea, snatch so many star seals, and upgrade his star seal to a 7-pointed star seal. But it was precisely because of this that Wu Mengchuan's eyes lit up as he shouted, "What kind of opportunities have you had over the years? It's really an eye-opener for this king to grow so quickly from an origin king back then." Although he didn't know what kind of fortuitous encounter Kai Yang had, but to be able to let a person become so strong in such a short period of time, Kai Yang's luck was definitely not shallow. But no matter what kind of fortuitous encounter Kai Yang had, as long as he could kill him, everything would belong to him. While he was talking, he had already rushed in front of Yang Kai, his fists raining down like a storm, his eyes filled with a trace of clarity. Yang Kai looked solemn as he quietly circulated his 5 elements indestructible sword qi. The power of the 5 elements lingered around his body as he fought back fearlessly. Previously in the Source Sea, the fight between the two was just for show, so neither of them used their full strength. Neither of them knew where the other's bottom line was. But now in this life and death battle, neither of them held back. For a time, the two exchanged punches and kicks, creating a series of clanging sounds. In terms of physique and cultivation, Yang Kai was undoubtedly superior, and coupled with the 5 elements indestructible sword qi, Wu Mengchuan quickly fell into a disadvantage in this battle. Yang Kai's fists landed squarely on Wu Mengchuan's body, leaving him in a sorry state. Wu Mengchuan was also extremely shocked. He found that he had still underestimated Yang Kai's ability. In less than 30 breaths, Wu Mengchuan's body was stained with blood, looking extremely miserable. But his eyes were extremely bright. Yang Kai also faintly noticed that something was wrong, because if it were someone else being beaten by him like this, that person's aura would have already weakened. But Wu Mengchuan's aura showed no signs of weakening, and instead showed signs of increasing. In contrast, Yang Kai's consumption was not light. Suddenly, Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he shouted, "Old dog, you're actually devouring my power?" Under his careful observation, he finally found some clues. Every time his power hit Wu Mengchuan, a part of it would strangely disappear. And this part was obviously being devoured by Wu Mengchuan. Wu Mengchuan laughed and said, "This king has cultivated the heaven-devouring great emperor's battle techniques, and is invincible. Unless you can kill this king in a single blow, just accept your death obediently." Killing Wu Mengchuan in a single blow was absolutely impossible for an ordinary first-order emperor realm master. Only a master above the second-order emperor realm could do it. Yang Kai sensed that something was wrong and hurriedly tried to retreat. Wu Mengchuan's voice was fierce as he shouted, "In front of this king, you can't come and go as you please. Heaven-devouring great emperor's territory, open for me." Kong. An invisible territory field expanded with a bang, directly wrapping Yang Kai in it. In this territory field, Yang Kai found that the power in his body was gushing out of his meridians uncontrollably, turning into a trickle of energy that flowed towards Wu Mengchuan. Not only that, his vitality was also showing signs of being devoured by Wu Mengchuan. And this speed was getting faster and faster. Yang Kai was shocked. Only now did he realize the horror of the heaven-devouring great emperor's battle techniques. Although the embodiment also cultivated the heaven-devouring great emperor's battle techniques, his secret art was undoubtedly much worse than Wu Mengchuan's. So there was no territory field that could devour everything. In this territory field, everything was the source of Wu Mengchuan's power, and it was inevitable that he would devour it. If someone fought with him, Wu Mengchuan could easily win and kill his opponent. Yang Kai was now in this awkward situation. What a rich blood qi! What a pure origin energy! Wu Mengchuan's eyes lit up as he exclaimed in surprise while fighting with Yang Kai. "Boy, you've tempered your body? Good, this is a great tonic. This king will have more confidence in breaking through to the emperor realm." Yang Kai snorted. "You really want to devour me? Be careful not to choke to death." As he spoke, he urged his space force, causing the surrounding void to tremble and become strange and unpredictable. Wu Mengchuan's eyes widened in shock. This is Space Force. It was as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight and was shocked beyond words. But in the next moment he was overjoyed. "You're proficient in Space Force." Seeing this, Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat, thinking that this guy couldn't possibly. Before he could finish this thought though, Yang Kai noticed that something was wrong and exclaimed in horror, "Bastard, you can even devour principal strength?" Wu Mengchuan showed a look of ecstasy on his face as he opened his mind and body to devour everything around him, constantly praising, Wonderful. The Space Force turns out to be so mysterious. No wonder not many people can cultivate it." By devouring Yang Kai's Space Force, he had comprehended a trace of the mysteries of Space Force. If this continued for a long time, once he really understood the mysteries of Space Force, he would definitely be able to cultivate Space Force like Yang Kai and obtain the Space Divine technique. Only now did Yang Kai truly realize the horror of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique. This secret art was really a peerless secret art, capable of devouring everything. Just think about it. No matter how mysterious the principal strength was, once it was used by someone, the one who cultivated the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique could comprehend and cultivate it by devouring it. This was simply robbing, and the opponent could do nothing about it. It was no wonder that during the War of Emperors in the Shattered Star Sea, the heaven-devouring Great Emperor was able to drag 4 top Great Emperors to the grave with him. With a secret art like the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique, who in this world could be his opponent? This was simply cheating. This king is a little reluctant to kill you. Wu Mengchuan looked at Yang Kai excitedly and shouted, "Boy, this king will give you one more chance. Stop here, open your knowledge sea, and let this king brand his soul brand. When this king dominates the territory of the aspiring star and reproduces the glory of our ancestors, I will let you rule the world. How about it? Is there such a good thing?" Yang Kai gritted his teeth and glared at him. But while speaking, his hands were not idle. With a wave of his hand, he sent 2 huge moon blades towards Wu Mengchuan. Wu Mengchuan's eyes lit up again as he stared at the moon blades, as if he had seen something novel. When the moon blades were about to reach him, he twisted his body to avoid them, licked his lips, and said with an impatient look, "This king likes your space principles very much. As long as you can help this king cultivate and comprehend this principle strength, this king will not treat you unfairly. Okay, I'll give you whatever you want. I only want one thing." Yang Kai sneered softly. Wu Mengchuan said with a sullen face, "If it's this king's life, then forget it." Yang Kai asked, "You're so smart, do your parents know?" Wu Mengchuan retorted angrily, "My parents died long ago. What does it have to do with them?" Scorching flame. While shouting angrily, Wu Mengchuan suddenly waved his hand and sent a stream of flames straight towards Yang Kai. This stream of flames contained the principle of fire and seemed to be able to burn everything. Yang Kai was shocked, knowing that this principle of fire was not something Wu Mengchuan had comprehended on his own. He should have devoured the principal strength of others through the heaven-devouring Great Emperor's battle technique. But even so, this divine technique should not be underestimated. Exile. Yang Kai stretched out his hand, and a black hole immediately appeared in front of him and swallowed the stream of flames directly. Stubborn. Wu Mengchuan's face became angry, and he suddenly spread out his hands, releasing 2 completely different principle fluctuations. His left hand was covered in flames, while his right hand was covered in ice. The principles of ice and fire spread out, but strangely, they did not cancel each other out, but instead merged perfectly. Wu Mengchuan shouted in a low voice, "I'll let you have a taste of this king's unique 9 heavens of ice and fire." Asterisk pa. Asterisk he clapped his hands together, and in an instant, the power of ice and fire erupted fiercely, sweeping through the void and shattering the world. Chapter 2480. A violent force swept out, and Yang Kai was the first to bear the brunt, and was immediately submerged. Asterisk Hong Long Long. Asterisk the ice and fire 9-layered heaven's secret technique rolled over and gradually disappeared, its power dissipating. Wu Mengchuan, however, stood in place with a dignified expression, staring ahead. When the dust settled, Yang Kai stood in the void in ragged clothes. Although he was in a sorry state, he was not in any danger of losing his life. His expression was solemn as he formed a series of hand seals. A mysterious aura filled the air. Wu Mengchuan suddenly felt extremely uneasy, a feeling that made his heart beat wildly. For some reason, he had a feeling that time had slowed down, as if his perception was being suppressed. Everything around him seemed to have come to a standstill, and only Yang Kai's movements were as fast as lightning. A dazzling handprint suddenly formed, and Yang Kai stretched out his hand and clapped it towards him, shouting in a low voice, "Flowing Time Great Emperor, Shuttle Art." Wu Mengchuan was shocked, instinctively sensing a dangerous aura. He wanted to dodge, but he could not move at all, and even his thoughts seemed to have frozen at this moment. The heaven-devouring Great Emperor's secret technique did not play any role. The dazzling handprint pressed directly towards Wu Mengchuan. At this critical moment, Wu Mengchuan suddenly bit the tip of his tongue, spat out a mouthful of blood essence, and with a flick of his wrist, a blood-red bottle appeared in his hand. The bottle did not look big, only about a foot tall, but as soon as it appeared, an extremely strong bloody aura filled the air. A bright red light suddenly bloomed from this bottle, and this light was so thick that it was almost tangible. Not only was the smell of blood pungent, but it also flowed out, turning into a crimson light that shrouded the front. As far as the eye could see, it was as if a blood-red sea had suddenly spread out. It filled a vast expanse of space. Asterisk Hong Hong Hong. Asterisk the flowing time Great Emperor's shuttle art blasted into the sea of blood. Monstrous waves were set off, causing the sea of blood to roil and tumble. Wu Mengchuan let out a muffled groan as he staggered back. Even though he had summoned this strange artifact, he was still inevitably hit by the divine technique of the flowing time Great Emperor, and his face rapidly aged, seemingly seriously injured. However, his expression had calmed down, and was no longer as panicked as before. Gritting his teeth and glaring at Yang Kai, Wu Mengchuan growled, I didn't expect you to have such a divine technique. Yang Kai frowned and kept looking around. It had only been 3 breaths since Wu Mengchuan summoned the blood-red bottle. But now, the environment he was in had undergone earth-shaking changes. The surroundings were filled with the thick smell of blood, and the sea of blood below was constantly churning. Bubbles appeared, and faint cries of ghosts and wolves could be heard coming from them. The surrounding space seemed to have been isolated by this sea of blood. Even though Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space, he could not detect anything beyond the sea of blood. It was as if this place had suddenly become a small world similar to the sealed world bead. It was completely isolated from the outside world. What the hell was that? Yang Kai was puzzled. The only thing he was certain of was that the blood-red bottle was an emperor artifact. Moreover, it was most likely an emperor artifact left behind by the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, the Great Emperors. After all, Wu Mengchuan was not an Emperor Realm Master yet, so it was impossible for him to have his own Emperor artifact. If it really was an Emperor artifact left behind by the Great Emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor, then it would be a big problem. Yang Kai's face sank for a moment. Boy, what kind of divine technique is that? It's completely different from the space principles you just used. Wu Mengchuan shouted again. Yang Kai glanced at him coldly and snorted. You're about to die. Why are you asking so many questions? Wu Mengchuan was taken aback for a moment before he burst into laughter. Boy, your tone isn't small, but you should be proud of yourself for forcing this king to use the blood spirit bottle. Blood spirit bottle? Yang Kai raised his brow, knowing that this was the name of the emperor artifact. That's right, Wu Mengchuan said triumphantly. This is an emperor artifact left behind by our ancestor. Only those with the Wu family bloodline can use it. Others can't use it at all. Although the blood spirit bottle is not the ancestor's best work, it's enough to deal with you, boy. Sure enough, this is an emperor artifact left behind by the great emperors of the heaven-devouring Great Emperor for his descendants. Yang Kai was shocked. Wu Mengchuan continued. Inside this king's blood spirit bottle, even if you are proficient in the Tao of space, you can forget about escaping. Today, you can either submit to this king or die here. Yang Kai sneered. You'd better worry about yourself first. After being hit by this young master's flowing time Great Emperor's divine technique, how long can you live? Although the flowing time Great Emperor's shuttle seal did not have the desired effect, it did injure Wu Mengchuan. His gradually aging face was the best proof of this, and the principles of time that had invaded his body could not be easily resolved. The principles of time would continue to corrode Wu Mengchuan's vitality until he eventually died of old age. What can a trivial secret technique do to me? Wu Mengchuan coldly snorted and stretched out his hand, causing the blood below him to rush towards him. As the blood flowed in, Wu Mengchuan's old face quickly regained its luster, as if he was no longer eroded by the principles of time. However, Yang Kai keenly noticed that Wu Mengchuan's brow furrowed as a look of shock appeared on his face. His face, which had recovered, quickly aged once more. What kind of power is this? Wu Mengchuan finally asked in shock. His method of using the blood to restore his vitality was actually treating the symptoms, but not the root cause. Unless he continued to absorb the blood here, he would eventually die. After realizing this, Wu Mengchuan finally became afraid. Yang Kai laughed and sneered. Can't you devour all things? Why don't you try devouring it yourself and you'll know? Boy, you're courting death. I wanted to keep your life for my own use, but now it seems that I have no choice but to kill you. Wu Mengchuan was furious and waved his hand, causing the blood sea to suddenly tumble, and a blood dragon to emerge from it. This blood dragon was lifelike, staring at Yang Kai with its house-sized eyes, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. But in the next moment, the entire blood sea began to boil, and at the same time, there was a crisp cracking sound coming from all directions. Wu Mengchuan turned pale with fright and shouted, Stop! Stop! You will destroy this king's blood spirit bottle. This space had been sealed when he summoned the blood spirit bottle, and now that the mountains and rivers bell was pressing down, the blood spirit bottle could not bear it at all. If this continued, this emperor artifact left by the heaven-devouring Great Emperor and Great Emperors would definitely be damaged. Yang Kai sneered. You're about to die, yet you still have the leisure to care about the bottle. If the blood spirit bottle could be used by him, Yang Kai would not be so ruthless. After all, this was a treasure left by the great emperors of the heaven-devouring great emperor, and its value was immeasurable. But Wu Mengchuan had said before that this thing could only be used by those with the Wu family bloodline. So even if Yang Kai obtained it, it would be useless. So he showed no mercy. Kacha. More and more sounds came out. Wu Mengchuan's face was pale as he roared. Stop, let's talk things over. Yang Kai coldly said. It's pointless to say even half a word. Walla. With a sound. The blood sea that filled the world was suddenly broken, and the power that sealed the space suddenly disappeared. These two are both the princess and the master. If you offend either of them, you won't have any good consequences. Being a man is really difficult. He sighed, a bitter expression on his face. Yang Kai said, but you can't let them fight like this anymore. Right now, the two of them are just exchanging pointers. But once they really get angry, the consequences will be very bad. You also know that little girls have a strong desire to win. If they remain in a stalemate for a long time, it may become a life-and-death situation. Xiao Chun trembled when he heard this, as if he had already foreseen that terrifying scene. His face turned pale as he said, Is there really such a thing? Don't lie to me. Yang Kai said seriously. Anything is possible. Right now, separating them is the most important thing. Xiao Chun swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, How do we do that? Her Highness the Princess won't even listen to what I say, unless I directly intervene. Then go directly intervene and separate them. Yang Kai said solemnly, Brother Xiao, you are now also a strong person in the Emperor realm. How difficult would it be to separate two fighting little girl? Of course it won't be difficult. Xiao Chun snorted and looked at Yang Kai with deep meaning. He said, But why do I feel like you are trying to frame me? Is it because I'm more handsome than you that you're unhappy about it? How could that be? Yang Kai said righteously. I am just considering the safety of the princess master. I am also a cultivator from the southern territory. Naturally, I don't want to see the princess master suffer any harm. The princess master is such a perfect person. Any harm is blasphemy to her. Xiao Chun nodded in agreement. His eyes were fiery as he said, You are right. The princess master can't be hurt in the slightest. We must separate them quickly. Brother Xiao, hurry up. Yang Kai urged. Xiao Chun grabbed Yang Kai's arm and said, Since you are so enthusiastic and loyal, then come with me. I will be responsible for stopping Princess Lan Sun, and you will be responsible for stopping the other princess. It's decided. While talking, he dragged Yang Kai and flew forward. Regardless of whether Yang Kai was willing or not, his speed was as fast as lightning. Yang Kai was stunned and cursed in his heart. He originally wanted to trick Xiao Chun into intervening to solve this meaningless battle, but he didn't expect that this guy, who seemed stupid, was actually shrewd enough to drag him into the fray. But now that things had come to this, Yang Kai didn't have time to care so much. He could only cooperate with Xiao Chun as he said. When he got close, Xiao Chun threw Yang Kai directly towards the center of the battle between the two women while shouting, Two princesses, please stop. Let's talk things out, don't be so violent. Xiao Chun, your ancestor. Yang Kai cursed in his heart. He never thought that Xiao Chun would be so despicable and insidious, actually using him as a hidden weapon. This was obviously done to divert Lan Sun and Mo Xiaoqi's attention, making it much easier for Yang Kai to intervene. In midair, Yang Kai twisted his body and stabilized himself. He didn't dare to act rashly, and could only urge his source qi to protect himself. In the next moment, he rushed into the center of the battle between the two women. A few rumbling sounds rang out, mixed with Yang Kai's muffled groans. Both Lan Sun and Mo Xiaoqi withdrew their hands in astonishment, and retreated a few dozen meters, staring at Yang Kai in a daze. Neither of the two women were indiscriminate murderers, so when they saw someone break into the battle and accidentally injure him, they immediately stopped. Mo Xiaoqi looked at the newcomer with some uneasiness, not knowing if his life was in danger, but in the next moment, Her beautiful eyes lit up, and the beast tattoo on her face disappeared completely. Little sister Xiaoqi lives in the Eastern Territory, and even I have only met her once when I was a child. How did Brother Yang know her? He didn't know why this girl was inquiring about this, but Yang Kai could feel a sharp glint in her eyes, so he could only laugh and say, "It's just a coincidence, nothing special." Mo Xiaoqi, on the other hand, glared at Lan Sun warily and said, "You old woman, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to my big brother Yang? Why are you asking so many questions?" As soon as this remark came out, Zhang Ruo she couldn't help but cry out, covering her red lips with her little hand. Lan Sun also blushed slightly and frowned, but Lu Yan didn't seem to care. Lan Sun said, "Little girl, how dare you say anything without thinking?" Mo Xiaoqi made a face at her and said, "A straight foot is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Why are you so nervous?" Lan Sun was angry. She was just curious about how Yang Kai knew a person like Mo Xiaoqi, and the two of them seemed to be very close, but she didn't expect to be ridiculed by Mo Xiaoqi, so she couldn't take it anymore. Annoyed, she gritted her teeth and said, "Yes, elder sister has taken a fancy to your big brother Yang, and is going to take him back to master, so he can have a good son-in-law as soon as possible. Little sister, do you have any objections?" This time, it was Mo Xiaoqi's turn to be dumbfounded. She looked at Lan Sun in amazement, then at Yang Kai, and suddenly stomped her foot and said, "You bad woman, why do you always steal from me? When we were children, you stole my clothes, and now you want to steal my big brother Yang." Saying so, she hugged Yang Kai's arm, ignoring the fact that her plump breasts were being squeezed by Yang Kai's arm, gritted her teeth, and said resolutely, "If you dare steal from me, I'll fight you." Lan Sun suddenly laughed and giggled. "That depends on which one your big brother Yang likes. Does he like an unreasonable little girl like you? Or does he like a knowledgeable and understanding woman like elder sister?" While speaking, she used some kind of secret technique, and her whole body exuded an extremely eye-catching aura. Xiao Chen swallowed his saliva as he watched from the side, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. He wished he could pluck his eyes out and stick them on Lan Sun's body. Mo Xiaoqi's face flushed with anxiety as she hugged Yang Kai's arm tightly, as if she would not let go until the end of time, and said angrily, "What's so great about you? What's so great about you? Auntie Feng is a million times prettier than you." Senior 9 Phoenix? Lan Sun suddenly looked serious. Mo Xiaoqi raised her head and said proudly, "Yes, how can you compare to Auntie Feng?" With a snort, she said to Yang Kai, "Big brother Yang, don't pay attention to this old woman. If you like beautiful women, come to Spirit Beast Island someday, and I will introduce you to Auntie Feng." The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. He didn't know how to respond at all. Lan Sun looked at Mo Xiaoqi in amazement. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she heard what she said. She knew that this girl lived on Spirit Beast Island all year round, and was well protected by the master. She didn't even know about the matters between men and women. She cared so much about Yang Kai, but it was probably just an instinctive reaction to go against her. Why am I competing with her? Lan Sun suddenly felt bored and nodded. Compared to Senior 9 Phoenix, I am naturally not as good. Well, little sister Xiaoqi, you win this time. Mo Xiaoqi was overjoyed when she heard this and said happily, "You are not bad, although you are a little worse than me." Lan Sun shook her head with a wry smile. They weighed their own strength, and looked at Yang Kai's lineup before reluctantly withdrawing their gazes. Only then did Mo Xiaoqi whisper, "Each of us got 2 or 3 star sources." She had an excited expression on her face, while Zhang Ruoxi and Lu Yan's faces were also flushed. Obviously, they were very satisfied with their harvest. Not bad, not bad. Yang Kai smiled and nodded. Each of them had obtained 2 or 3 star sources. In other words, the 3 of them had snatched at least 7 or 8 star sources in total. Such a harvest was already very rich. If they could find time to refine them, it would be of great help to their future growth. But in comparison, Yang Kai's harvest was even greater. Although he did not count it in detail, he had snatched at least 30 star sources. A cultivation star would only give birth to 1 source. More than 30 star sources meant that there were 30 cultivation stars in total. And the number of star sources that appeared in the entire source sea in just one day was more than 300 to 400. In other words, the heaven-devouring great emperors had devoured at least 300 to 400 cultivation stars in the past to leave behind such a rich legacy after death. This kind of behavior, this kind of way of doing things, simply could not be described as heartless. We can't stay here for long. Since there are no more star sources, we'd better leave first. Yang Kai glanced around and said with a frown. Mo Xiaoqi said, I'll follow Big Brother Yang. Yang Kai nodded. Just as he was about to lead them away from this troublesome place, a strange movement suddenly came from the source sea below. The crimson seawater seemed to be attracted by something and began to slowly rotate. After a while, the entire source sea began to rotate. A subtle pulling force came, causing the faces of all the cultivator above the source sea to change. Looking over, a series of gasps could be heard. At the center of the source sea, a huge whirlpool gradually formed, and as the source sea rotated, the crimson seawater continued to pour into the whirlpool before disappearing without a trace. The vortex seemed to be able to devour the void, causing everyone who saw this scene to feel their scalps tingle and their bodies turn cold. The seawater poured in faster and more violently. In just a few breaths, the size of the source sea had shrunk by more than half. After a while, the entire source sea disappeared. The seawater that originally filled the void disappeared, leaving only a black hole-like existence in the center. Through the black hole, a skeleton could be vaguely seen sitting cross-legged inside. It was extremely pale, and it was obvious that this skeleton had been dead for many years. It would be fine if that was all, but there was a remnant of a space ring on one of the fingers of the skeleton. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Pairs of fiery eyes stared at the space ring like locusts. Asterisk gulp gulp. Asterisk swallowing sounds could be heard. What's with this skeleton? Who died here? It looks like this person has been dead for at least tens of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years. The Battle of Emperors happened tens of thousands of years ago. A total of 5 great emperors fell in that battle. This is the skeleton of the great emperors. That ring, it's the space ring of the great emperors. The cultivator continued to gather near the black hole. In a short while, there was a sea of people around, and bursts of discussion could be heard from all directions. Most of them were guessing which great emperors left this skeleton behind. Yang Kai, however, felt a chill in his heart. He had heard from Lan Sun that the source sea was the place where the great emperors of the heaven-devouring great emperor fell. She was also shocked in her heart. Previously, Mo Xiaoqi had shown great concern for Yang Kai, so she thought this little girl was simply acting against her. But now she knew that she really cared about Yang Kai, otherwise, she would not have unlocked her seal. She probably thought that Yang Kai was dead for sure. So she unlocked the seal to avenge Yang Kai. But how could she have known that Yang Kai was unscathed while she herself had lost consciousness and was being controlled by the heavenly illusion butterfly's soul? The whole world was left with a huge butterfly fluttering about, completely attracting his attention. He knew that it was the heavenly illusion butterfly's illusion technique, but he could not get rid of it. If it were not for the soul-warming lotus playing a role at the critical moment, allowing him to clear his mind, he would not have had a good end. His spiritual energy was extremely strong, even weaker than the average cultivators of the Emperor realm, but even he could not resist the heavenly illusion butterfly's illusion technique. No one present could resist it, and it seemed that Mo Xiaoqi's seal had not been completely undone yet. If it was completely undone, this place would definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. If all the elites of the 4 territories of the star boundary died here, the entire star boundary would not be able to recover its yuan qi for at least 500 years. Junior sister Lan, is there no other way to seal her? Yang Kai immediately asked Lan Sun after taking a breath. Lan Sun looked desperate and slowly shook her head. Let's run quickly. Life and death are predestined. Wealth and honor are in the hands of the heavens. Liang Qiu said with a black face. Among everyone, he was the one who wanted to escape the most. After all, Mo Xiaoqi had been staring at him since the beginning. The others did not have any good ideas. So when they heard this, their expressions became solemn as they secretly circulated their source qi, preparing to flee at any time. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from afar. If you don't mind, how about letting this old master try? As soon as this statement came out, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. After seeing who the speaker was, everyone could not help showing a strange expression, because this person was actually the old swindler. Among everyone present, except for Yang Kai and Mo Xiaoqi, who had dealt with this old swindler a few times, this was the first time the others had seen him. However, at this moment, he looked like a transcendent being, so he had nothing to do with being a swindler. If he had stood up and said this with his previous appearance, he would have been immediately blown to pieces. You, Lan Sun looked at the old swindler, a trace of doubt flashing in her beautiful eyes. She faintly felt that she seemed to have seen this person somewhere before. But when she thought about it carefully, her mind went blank. Hyoji's expression also turned solemn for an instant. Although he had a different feeling from Lan Sun, this old man gave him an extremely uneasy feeling. When he swept out with his divine sense, he was shocked to find that the old man was empty. In other words, with his cultivation in the Emperor realm, he could not detect the existence of this old man. This was even more shocking to him than Yang Kai taking Liang Qiu's blow with his physical body. Where did you pop out from, old man? Why didn't I see you before? Liang Qiu's eyes were bigger than eggs. If the old swindler had not taken the initiative to speak, Liang Qiu would not have noticed him. Hehe, this old master has been here all this time. With my insignificant cultivation, I'm afraid that young master wouldn't notice me. The old swindler smiled slightly. Strange. Liang Qiu looked puzzled. There were really strange things every year. But this year, there were especially many strange things. As the old swindler spoke, he walked towards Mo Xiaoqi step by step. Having learned his lesson from Yang Kai's mistake, his fearless expression was quite admirable. Yang Kai, however, asked with a sullen face, "Old sir, aren't you selling spirit pills and spirit medicines? How do you know about the divine spirit seal?" Unlike others, Yang Kai had a little understanding of this old swindler, so he was very worried about him. This old man's ability to swindle people was top-notch. When the old man said that her clothes were good, he was definitely not talking about her outer clothes, but the pink cloud's phoenix robe hidden inside. What is this old man doing? How can he see through this? Yang Kai couldn't help but be vigilant. Zhang Ruo, she didn't have any vigilance and just said lightly, "A friend gave it to me." A friend? The old man's mouth twitched obviously, and he chuckled. If you see your friend next time, help this old man say hello to him. Tell him that this old man misses him very much. Zhang Ruo, she was surprised. Senior knows him? I haven't seen him in a long time. The old man replied kindly. While the two of them were chatting, Kai Yang's heart was in a perilous situation. His eyes were wide open, as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He suddenly realized that this old man was definitely not as mysterious as he looked on the surface. Instead, he was somewhat unfathomable. Because Zhang Ruoxi's pink cloud's phoenix robe was obtained from the Four Seasons realm, and according to her, the one who gave her this emperor artifact was the ancient divine spirit Qiongqi. Qiongqi seemed to be the mount of the Flowing Time Great Emperor, the Great Emperors. After the Flowing Time Great Emperor fell, Qiongqi had been sleeping in the Four Seasons realm until the appearance of the Flowing Time Temple. After that, Qiongqi also left the Four Seasons realm, and no one knew where he went. Qiongqi was an ancient divine spirit, and killing was his second nature. When he came out of the Four Seasons realm, he scared Gao Shueting and the others who were guarding the exit. Fortunately, Qiongqi had no intention of hurting people, otherwise, Gao Shueting and the others would have died. But now this old man actually said that he knew Qiongqi. Who the hell is this old man? Yang Kai already felt that this old man was strange, but now he was even more confused. Why is such a strange person only at the Third Order Dao Source realm? How should I address Senior? Zhang Ruoxi and the old man seemed to get along well, and her uneasy and nervous mood gradually relaxed. Yang Kai also quickly perked up his ears and listened attentively. The old man opened his mouth and spat out a few words. Yang Kai was at a loss because he didn't hear what the old man said at all. Zhang Ruoxi nodded and said, "Junior will remember. If I meet him again, I will tell him. It's just that I don't know where he went. I don't know where he went after he gave me these clothes last time." While speaking, Zhang Ruoxi suddenly swayed slightly and almost fell down. Fortunately, Kai Yang's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast enough to support her. "Okay, the blood essence has been taken. You can rest for a while," the old man said with a smile. Only now did Yang Kai notice that there was a drop of blood floating above the old man's finger. That drop of blood seemed to be alive as it danced on the old man's fingertip, appearing extremely unstable. Furthermore, there was an extremely strange aura coming from that drop of blood. Yang Kai didn't know when the old man took the blood essence. At first, it was extremely weak, but as time passed, it gradually became stronger, as if a sleeping dragon was slowly waking up. The old man standing in the void obviously noticed this aura as well, and his expression turned solemn as his hands suddenly moved a lot faster. All kinds of incredible but incomparably powerful secret techniques bloomed from his hands and blasted towards the skeleton. In an instant, the place where the skeleton was located collapsed, and the void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. The old man narrowed his eyes and looked forward, and after a while, he coldly snorted. When the dust settled, a thick wall of blood light appeared in front of the skeleton. The wall was full of cracks, and the attack just now seemed to have been blocked by the wall of blood light. It did not hurt the skeleton at all. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. A sharp gaze suddenly shot out from behind the wall of blood light. It seemed to have come from the ancient era, and it made the world turn cold. "You're awake," the old man curled his lips and said with an unhappy expression. The skeleton stared at the old man with a pair of unformed eyes, and there was a bright ghost fire flickering in his eye sockets. After staring at the old man for a long time, he opened his mouth and said in a creepy voice, "Duan Hongchen?" The old man laughed and said wildly, "Yes, it's this old master Wukong. It's rare that you still remember this old master after sleeping for so many years." The skeleton said in a cold voice, "How can this king forget your cheap face? I'm really unlucky to see you first when I woke up." Duan Hongchen smiled faintly and said, "Are you disappointed? Then who do you want to see? Tell me. This old master can disguise himself as him. You also know that this old master's disguise technique is unparalleled in the world." The skeleton was indifferent, and after a moment of silence he said, "How long has this king been asleep?" Duan Hongchen's expression turned solemn as he said, "Tens of thousands of years, but this old master can't remember exactly how long." The skeleton sighed and said, "It seems that it's really been a long time." The man and the skeleton were chatting like old friends who had not seen each other for many years, and there was no tension at all. Yang Kai, who was hiding on a small hill in the distance, felt a storm in his heart. The old man called the skeleton Wukong, which meant that he was indeed the great emperors of the heaven-devouring great emperor. The great emperors of the heaven-devouring great emperor were actually not dead, but had used a mysterious secret technique to sleep in this strange space for tens of thousands of years, waiting for the moment of resurrection. If this news were to spread, the entire star boundary would be in an uproar. But what shocked Yang Kai even more was the old man's name, Duan Hongchen. Yang Kai had never heard of this name, but he had heard of another honorific title, the Great Emperors of the Mortal World. The Great Emperors of the Heaven-Devouring Great Emperor, Wukong, knew the old man, which meant that the two of them were people of the same era and status. Only the Great Emperors could match the name Duan Hongchen. Was he really the Great Emperors of the Mortal World? Yang Kai was so shocked that he could hardly breathe. Previously, when the old man said that the next time he saw Wen Zishan, he would ask Temple Master when to expel Yang Kai from the sect, Yang Kai had even ridiculed him. Who would have thought that this ridicule would actually come true? It was possible to say that the old man was the Great Emperors of the Mortal World, because it was rumored that the Great Emperors of the Mortal World had always been unrestrained and unrestrained, and the style of the old man that Yang Kai knew was consistent with the rumors. The reason why Hyoji obediently left, and even showed a humble expression, was probably because he knew his identity. But what was the matter with his cultivation? The great emperors of the mortal world were extremely powerful. So how could they only be in the third-order Dao Source realm? Not only was Yang Kai puzzled by this question, but Wukong was also very curious. How did your cultivation drop so much? This old man cut off his own cultivation. Duan Hongchen smiled slightly, not caring at all. Cut off your own cultivation. Wukong's eyes lit up, and he said in a low voice, "You're actually willing to do this? You can't catch the wolf without risking the child." Wukong seemed to understand something and said, "Did you cut off your own cultivation to come here to find me?" Duan Hongchen nodded and said, "Of course. You may not know, but after you died, the realm barrier here became a little fragile, and the Emperor realm can't enter this place. If you want to enter, you can only do this." Chapter 2496. A hero cuts his wrist. Wukong stared at Duan Hongchen in a daze. Amazing. This king admires you the most among all the emperors back then. You really didn't disappoint this king. Duan Hongchen laughed and said, "Same to you. You are also the one this old master admires the most." Wukong sighed. It must have been hard for you to maintain your Dao Source realm cultivation for so many years. You're wrong. Duan Hongchen raised a finger and shook it slowly, saying in a serious tone, "I didn't deliberately maintain my cultivation. I just cut off my own cultivation countless times." Countless times? Wukong exclaimed in horror, truly shocked. You can cultivate again every time? You didn't damage your foundation? Duan Hongchen said lightly, "It's all thanks to you. Although it was indeed dangerous a few times, I managed to survive. I remember one time when I made a mistake and lost all my cultivation. It took this old master 2,000 years to cultivate again. Your body hasn't taken shape yet. So I'm afraid you can't even use 1% of your strength, as if recalling that incident. This old man doesn't need to fight had a look of lingering fear on his face. I just need to block the blood flow to stop your resurrection. In his eyes. Was it really worth it to do be this king's enemy? Duan Hongchen's expression turned solemn as he shouted in a low voice. Seriously, yes, it's you who is the enemy of the world, the enemy of the common people. Find you. If you are reborn, your soul, the star boundary will be in chaos. You're just enjoying your time in a mortal world. But you've actually learned to care about the common people. Duan Hongchen smiled lightly and said, if you dare to stop me, this old master doesn't hate you. This place will be your burial ground. Everyone has their own aspirations. Since this old man has come in, and people who walk different paths cannot work together. Alive. Duan Hongchen's face was resolute, and he suddenly changed his hand seals and shouted, so if you don't die, in an instant, it will be a bit outrageous. His aura rose to the limit, so you're here to avenge those old friends of yours. It still continued to climb. Duan Hongchen sighed softly and said, a wave of chi visible to the naked eye erupted from the body of the great emperors of the mortal world. This old man also feels that this matter is very troublesome, causing the blood to churn. Why don't you obediently stop resisting? Duan Hongchen's cultivation broke to meet those old friends of yours. Third order Dao source realm. Yukong snorted coldly to the first order emperor realm. My soul was almost scattered by you all back then. This breakthrough was as simple as piercing through a thin layer of paper to escape at the critical moment. Simple. How could he have woken even a world energy baptism? I thought that everything was flawless. It happened in the blink of an eye. How do you know that I'm still alive? The higher your cultivation, said solemnly, the more useful your methods are indeed impressive when I devour you later. At that time, Wukong was not surprised when he saw Duan thinking that you were really dead. Instead, he was forgotten that there is a person who can see through the mysteries of heaven. He saw through the past and saw the future. Enveloping Duan Hongchen. He was the one who told me that the surrounding blood seemed to be attracted by something and madly gathered towards eyes flashed wildly as he said, the territory of the heaven-devouring great emperor. Duan Hongchen nodded and said, who was watching from afar. It was heaven's revelation that this was the territory of the heaven-devouring great emperor. This old man would come in to take a look. In his previous battle, thousands of years have passed within the territory of the heaven-devouring great emperor. I never thought that this everything was devoured. You would finally be unable to bear the loneliness and prepare to make a comeback. The territory of the heaven-devouring great emperor displayed by Wukong. It's just that the time has come. Was not something that Wukong snorted coldly for. Seeing through really the mysteries had the concept of devouring the heaven also has the ability to see the past and the future. Just looking at it made what heaven's revelations can see. Duan Hongchen was suddenly wrapped in the territory of the heaven-devouring great emperor. This king can also see. And his aura suddenly weakened. Since this king has chosen to wake up at this time, and he clasped his hands together and slammed them forward. Chanting in a low voice, said in a deep voice, mortal world, that depends on how much ability you have in the past. The huge seal slammed down. Wukong laughed and before loudly. The attack arrived, even if it had already set off monstrous waves in the surrounding blood. What can you do to stop Wukong's me in your eyes narrowed state? As he quickly said, 1%. Not bad, Wukong not bad. Has also learned to talk back big. Then. But it's impossible for you to defeat this king. Heaven-devouring great emperor's battle technique, devour. As soon as his voice fell, the skeleton seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit. Not only devouring the surrounding blood, but also Duan Hongchen's secret technique. Wukong laughed loudly, his laughter full of disdain. Duan Hongchen's face remained impassive as he pushed his emperor chi to maintain his secret technique to resist this attack. A moment later, Wukong's body shook, and the blood flowing into his skeleton was suddenly cut off. Not only that, the regenerated flesh fell to the ground and turned into a pool of dirty water. He shouted angrily, "Old thing, you cheated." Duan Hongchen chuckled and said, "Keep devouring, why did you stop? Isn't your heaven-devouring great emperor's battle technique supposed to be able to devour everything under heaven-devouring great emperor? Why did you stop?" Wukong angrily said, "What kind of concept does this secret technique of yours contain? It can actually hurt this king secretly. This is unforgivable." Duan Hongchen coldly snorted. Do you think this old master has severed his cultivation countless times over the past tens of thousands of years, just to enter the shattered star sea to find you? Since this old master is known as the mortal world, it is natural for this old master to experience the power of the mortal world. This old master is no longer the old master of the past. The power of the mortal world, the power of heaven and earth? Wukong's eyes flashed, as if he had comprehended something and said fiercely, "You actually comprehended a trace of the power of heaven and earth." No wonder you are so confident. Wukong, this time you will definitely die, so don't resist. What a joke. There is no one in this world who can kill this king. This king is the heavens and the earth. Those who resist this king are violating the will of the heavens and earth, and can't be tolerated by all laws. Duan Hongchen shook his head and said, Wukong, you are confused. Under the heavens and earth, all living things are ants. How dare you compare yourself to the heavens and earth? The heavens will not tolerate you. I am the heaven-devouring great emperor, and the heavens will not tolerate me. Of these two great emperors, one had an incomplete body, and the other had cut off his own cultivation. Neither of them was at their peak, but in this strange world, they were fighting to the death, and did not hold back at all. When the energy surged, they were even more fierce, and the heavens and earth trembled. Their words sounded ordinary, but they seemed to contain a very deep truth, which triggered the pattern of the heavens. When it reached Yang Kai's ears, it made his mind tremble violently, and the qi in his body was tumbling. This was the Tao. This was the heavens Tao that countless cultivators were bitterly searching for but could not touch. The two great emperors were secretly fighting with their own Tao, trying to suppress each other. In such a battle, the one with the firmer heart confident that his strength was not inferior to any would undoubtedly have the upper realm. Yang Kai was immersed in it all at once. Realm cultivator. After carefully thinking without a high enough realm, he only felt that what never be called an emperor was very reasonable. He had been looking for an opportunity to break through, and it was priceless advice that benefited him a lot. This kind of thing could not be rushed. Suddenly, Yang Kai's opportunity came, and a look of realization appeared on his face. If the opportunity did not come, it would be useless to force it. The tumbling qi in his body and also reached its peak at this moment. This opportunity suddenly fell on Yang Kai, and suddenly recovered from that kind of enlightenment. Yang Kai would have been ecstatic. With an ugly expression, he had long been mentally prepared to break through to the emperor realm. He did not expect that he would feel the opportunity to break through at transforming into emperor. It had been almost 3 years, so it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the emperor realm. He had seen many new cultivators from the emperor realm here in a life and death battle. So how could he break through with peace of mind? If he was caught in the middle of the battle between these two, the consequences would be unimaginable. He wanted to suppress it, but found that he could not at all. The feeling of breaking through was getting stronger and stronger. If he forcibly suppressed it, his foundation would be destroyed and his cultivation would be lost. Chapter 2497. Now that the arrow was knocked on the string, Yang Kai gritted his teeth, waved his hand, and scattered countless source crystals from his space ring around his body. Immediately, he sat down cross-legged, emptied his mind and body, ignoring all the unstable factors, and only comprehending the fluctuations of the heavenly way brought about by the battle between the two great emperors. This kind of promotion was something that no one had ever done before in history. Yang Kai had no choice but to do so, but he soon discovered that this might be an opportunity for him, because the two great emperors' every move, and even their words carried a trace of mysterious power that coincided with the truth of the heavenly way. It was as if he was absorbing the two great emperors' perception of the heavenly way, using it as a cornerstone to spy on his own path of martial Tao. The benefits were simply indescribable. Yang Kai soon forgot everything around him, and was completely immersed in it. The source crystals around him were shaken violently, and turned into dust. Pure and rich world energy escaped from the source crystals, and slowly gathered above Yang Kai's head, gradually forming a heavenly vision. Oh, there's a little bug. Although the two great emperors were fighting fiercely, and seemed to be distracted, at their level of cultivation, their perception was extremely sharp. They noticed the slightest movement on Yang Kai's side. Wukong took a moment to look at Yang Kai, then his eyes flashed with disdain. A trivial third-order Tao source realm was nothing in his eyes, not to mention when he was at his peak. Even now, he could easily crush a Tao source realm cultivator like crushing an ant. How did this boy come in? Duan Hongchen was slightly surprised. This was the place where Wukong had faked his death, so the entrance to the black hole had been set up with his own unique barrier. Let alone coming in, it was impossible to even discover it. Otherwise, Duan Hongchen would not have only found this place today, after so many openings of the shattered star sea, over the past tens of thousands of years. He already knew that the origin sea was Wukong's hiding place. However, He did not know exactly where it was hidden until the origin sea changed, and the black hole formed, devouring a large amount of the cultivator's flesh and blood essence. Only then was he able to enter this place. It was thanks to his understanding of Wukong that he was able to break the restriction on the entrance. If it was any other place in the Emperor Realm, even a third-order Emperor Realm Master would only be able to look on helplessly. How did Yang Kai have the ability to enter this place? Could it be that after he entered, the restriction at the entrance loosened, giving him an opportunity to take advantage of it? Duan Hongchen was a little annoyed. If he had known this would happen, he would have destroyed the entrance after coming in. But he didn't know. The only reason Yang Kai could enter this place was because of the jade strip left behind by Wu Mengchuan after his death. The jade slip could be said to be a key. The person holding the jade slip would be able to ignore the restriction at the entrance and enter this place. This was what Wukong had left behind for his descendants. Everything was a coincidence. To Duan Hongchen's relief, he only found Yang Kai's trace and did not see Mo Shaoqi or Zhang Ruoxi. If those two girls were also here, then today's matter would be troublesome. You dare to be distracted while fighting with this king? Duan Hongchen, you deserve to die today. Wukong shouted. He clasped his hands together and pushed them forward. Asterisk hoo hoo hoo. Asterisk a strange sound was heard as a violent wind suddenly swept out from his palm and swept towards Duan Hongchen. This wind did not seem to be an ordinary one. It actually contained the aura of the elemental sources. Wherever it swept, the world collapsed and space shattered. It was extremely terrifying. Primordial astral wind. Duan Hongchen's face changed drastically as he said in horror. You have lost your physical body, but you can still use the primordial astral wind. Wukong smiled contemptuously. The primordial astral wind is the power of the elemental sources. It is invisible and formless, and it is connected to this king's mind. Who told you that you can't use it after losing your physical body? Ha ha ha, you dare to look down on this king? You will pay the price. Even if this king is only a skeleton left, he is still not someone you can look up to. As he spoke, the primordial astral wind had already arrived in front of Duan Hongchen and was about to engulf him. At this moment of crisis, the panic in Duan Hongchen's eyes suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a solemn look. He formed a seal with his hands and suddenly rose from the ground as he shouted in a low voice. Prison circle! Asterisk walala. Asterisk a dark green light suddenly bloomed and enveloped Duan Hongchen. At the same time, the phantom image of a huge tree appeared and stretched across the world. This dark green phantom image was similar to the primordial astral wind, exuding pure elemental sources. Bang! 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 The primordial astral wind rushed over and caused the dark green tree to sway unsteadily, causing its leaves to rustle. Yet it was unable to invade Duan Hongchen in the slightest. All of its might was actually resisted and didn't injure him in the slightest. Divine Wood Barbarian. Wukong cried out in shock when he saw this scene, and he seemed to look at the dark green phantom image with slight disbelief. He gritted his teeth and roared. Duan Hongchen, you dare to play tricks on this king? Earlier, Duan Hongchen revealed a panicked expression, and Wukong thought that Duan Hongchen was unable to do anything against his primordial astral wind. But never had he imagined that in the blink of an eye, Duan Hongchen actually utilized the phantom image of the Divine Wood Barbarian to completely block off the primordial astral wind. Duan Hongchen was obviously toying with him, causing him to experience a huge drop from joy to disappointment. It was simply unforgivable. Duan Hongchen urged his Emperor Qi to support the phantom image of the Divine Wood Barbarian, while wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, and said with a grin, You really scared this old master to death. Fortunately, this old master was prepared, otherwise, I'm afraid I really would have failed miserably. Bastard, how dare you slander this king? Duan Hongchen, you've got guts. And isn't this primordial astral wind from that bastard Iron Blood? He has always regarded it as a treasure. So how could it have fallen into your hands? Wukong roared again and again, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Suddenly his expression changed and he said, Could it be? Iron Blood has fallen. Duan Hongchen coldly snorted and said, "Although this old master wishes Iron Blood to die early and reincarnate, what's disappointing is that that bastard doesn't even show any signs of aging. Instead, he's getting younger and younger. It's really enviable. Recently, he seems to have taken in a little disciple and spent a lot of effort to teach her. But I don't know what he's after. Disciples are meant to be deceived by their master. It's really sad to talk about it." It was unknown if he was thinking of Wen Zishan when he said this, but he seemed to be gnashing his teeth in anger. Wukong said angrily, "Since he's still alive, why would he hand over the Divine Wood Origin to you? How could he bear to?" Duan Hongchen grinned and said, "Because this old master told him that if he didn't hand over the Divine Wood Origin, this old master would find hundreds and thousands of young and strong men and form a group to seduce his precious disciple. Let's see if his disciple can control herself." He obediently gave in. Wukong's face darkened when he heard this. He was speechless and said, "You can do that?" Duan Hongchen curled his lips and said, "You don't know how much he cares about his precious disciple. That little girl seems to have a special constitution and is extremely suitable to inherit his legacy. This old master has seen that little girl before. She's amazing. Young people nowadays are amazing. At such a young age, she vaguely has the demeanor of Iron Blood back then. She can kill her master with one punch. When this old master left Iron Blood Castle, he punched me. My eyebrows were cracked and my blood spilled everywhere." Wukong laughed and said, "You deserve it. I'm afraid no one in this world can be more shameless than you." You flatter me, you flatter me." Duan Hongchen smiled slightly. Wukong said, "So what if you have the Divine Wood Origin? After all, you're not the first owner of the Divine Wood Origin. How can you win against this old master's primordial astral wind?" "Whether or not I can win, I still have to try. Don't tell me this old master should just sit and wait for death?" As the two fought, they exchanged words. One moment, they acted like old friends reminiscing about the past, and the next moment, they acted like they were mortal enemies. If there was anyone else here, they would have been confused by this scene. However, the two elemental origins collided madly without rest, causing the space to shatter and fill the sky with the power of wind and wood. It was extremely shocking. The sweeping primordial astral wind was extremely powerful. Even if the Emperor realm was swept into it, there would be nothing left of them. However, the Divine Wood White Barbarian's shadow was impregnable. No matter how strong the wind blew, it would not move. The leaves rustled as it guarded Duan Hongchen tightly. Within a radius of 100 miles, the space and line of sight had been distorted. The blood on the ground had all evaporated. At the beginning,
this kind of
competition was a
dismissive,
competition,
but now
of the
he had
twos
to
treat
control
this battle
of their
seriously.
respective elemental
Duan
origins.
Hongchen,
Moreover,
had waited for tens
the
of
result
thousands
could not
of
be
years to
determined
enter
in a
this
short
place to
period
deal
of
with
time.
him. With
How
such
could
a
he not be
situation,
prepared?
whether
And
it was
judging from the
Wukong or
results,
Duan Hongchen,
everything that
it
Duan
was difficult for
Hongchen
them to
had
back
displayed
down.
was
If
deliberately
Wu
aimed at
Guang
him.
withdrew the
The two
primordial
great
astral
emperors were
wind,
fighting fiercely
Duan
here.
Hongchen would
Although they
definitely
knew that
take
Yang
the
Kai was
opportunity
still
to
advancing
counterattack.
to the Emperor
In his
realm,
current state,
they did not intend
there was
to
no
pay
way he could
attention to
resist
him.
the attack
They
of
did
the
not
Divine
even
Wood
deliberately
Origin.
restrain
Whether
the
it was the
aftermath of their
primordial
attacks.
astral wind,
Wukong
or
did
the
not
Divine
care
Wood
about
Origin,
Yang Kai's life or
they
death.
were both treasures
But Duan
comparable to
Hongchen
the
had
true
no
phoenix
choice.
fire.
Although he
Not
knew
only
that
were
Yang
they
Kai
precious
was a
and
disciple
difficult
of
to find,
Azure Sun Temple,
but they were also
and had the
infinitely
idea of
powerful.
protecting him as much
In
as
particular,
possible.
Wu
He could
Guang
not
was
spare
still
the
a
slightest
skeleton
thought
at the
to
moment.
consider other things.
So the Divine
when fighting
Tree's
the great
origin was
emperors of the
especially
heaven-devouring
lethal to him.
great emperor.
Once the Divine
he could
Tree's
only do his
origin's
best
power
to fight
invaded
against
his body.
Wukong.
He would never be able to reconstruct his body. He did not dare to let his guard down. Chapter 2498. While the two great emperors were fighting fiercely over there, Yang Kai was gradually entering a good state. Traces of emperor intent spread out from his body. At first, it was not obvious, but as time passed, this emperor intent became clearer and clearer. To advance to the emperor realm, condensing one's own emperor intent was the most basic standard. Only by having one's own emperor intent could one touch the threshold of the emperor realm and open the door to the supreme martial Tao. Rich world energy gathered above Yang Kai's head, forming an extremely terrifying world energy manifestation. The dense world energy gathered into a cloud, as if the sky was about to collapse. Thunder and lightning constantly flashed through the cloud of world energy, giving off a deafening rumbling sound. Yang Kai sat cross-legged motionless. In his mind, all the experiences of his life flashed. Yang Kai was already wanted to recall them. However, but these his physical body was extremely strong involuntarily, and the golden blood in his body control them at all. Extremely strong, joining high-healing pavilion, cultivating so his hard, cracked skin, but not finding the right way itself. Being bullied by many brothers, that poured into his body, was also swallowed up by martial Tao. Occasionally obtaining the wordless instead of decrease, peeking into the inheritance of the demon god. The second baptism had already arrived. Fighting compared in central to the first capital, one, walking the second one realm, was even more terrifying. Entering the starfield corridor, as the lightning fell, breaking through the aura of extinction spread out, entering the star boundary, Yang Kai smelled the passion with Su Yen. He focused his mind and did not dare to emotional be entanglements with Shan Qing Luo. He formed seals with his hands and urged his strength to resist, tirelessly pursuing the peak of the martial Tao. The road to the Tao, accompanied by beauty, his entire body was dripping with blood. There were thoughts in his heart, making him look extremely terrifying. No regrets, the raging world energy invaded his body. On this road, no hatred, no regrets, flesh and meridians, no demons in the heart, making him suffer no external force can invade. Yang Kai gritted his teeth and endured. Yang Kai absorbing the world energy that poured into his body, clear and bright, as much as he could, shining like stars, comprehending, and he let out a long roar. Sweeping away the barriers that blinded his eyes, reached its peak in an prying into his own path of martial Tao. Asterisk dense sound suddenly came from all over his body. Wave of baptism his bones crashing down without flesh stopping. And blood wriggled to the limit at this moment. The two great emperors, his meridians, were doing their best to resist, and his flesh and bones be attracted by the commotion. Even his divine sense to look. It also seemed to have expanded a lot. Wukong's eyes suddenly flashed, and he shouted in a bolt of lightning thicker than a bucket suddenly struck down. Not simple. It contained the power of the great emperors of heaven, seemed to be able to destroy everything. The strongest master in the star boundaries, it blasted towards Yang Kai's head. He did not dare say that there would be no one to surpass him. There was also an incomparable amount of spiritual chi, but there was definitely no one before him. It was as if it wanted to drown Yang Kai. Even though he was also one of the great emperors. He did not put them in his eyes. Trembled violently. For him to say that Yang Kai was let out a muffled groan was already an extremely high compliment. To shreds. He is revealing indeed a little strange body. Duan Hongqian's eyes narrowed slightly, and blood was flowing out in agreement. The supreme martial emperor, the heavenly Tao, did not tolerate it. With only just by enduring the condemnation of the heavenly Tao. If he was simple and withstanding the baptism of the energy of heaven and earth, quickly in just a few years, only then could one truly advance to the Yang Kai had known each other for some time now. Although they did not have a deep relationship, countless elite cultivators had fallen as extremely good. Their souls ever since he saw Yang Kai, this was also the reason why there were so many that he would become a great man in the future. In the entire although he had tried to overestimate Yang Kai as much as possible, those who could truly advance to the emperor realm this boy were those who were extremely firm in their own path of martial the emperor realm and would not be disturbed by external forces. Wukong suddenly asked in a deep voice, the current, firm in their beliefs. If the world energy baptism was as terrifying as force baptism in the emperor realm, was more terrifying than any that Yang Kai had encountered before. Wukong nodded lightly and said, "This boy has the characteristics of great emperors." Duan Hongchen laughed and said, I think this boy has more than just the characteristics of great emperors. He will surpass you sooner or later. Surpass this king? Wukong sneered when he heard this. Dream on. No one can surpass this king's ability. Duan Hongchen chuckled and said, Whatever you say. You won't have the chance to see it anyway. Wukong's voice turned cold. Are you so confident that you can kill this king? Duan Hongchen said in a deep voice. This old master has said it before. Since I have come here, I have no intention of leaving alive. Today, even if my soul is destroyed, I will eliminate you completely. Good. Since you've said so, this king won't be polite when dealing with you. As he spoke, Wukuang's expression suddenly changed as he turned his attention to Yang Kai again. Duan Hongchen also seemed to have noticed something wrong. When he turned his head, he saw the heavenly vision change again. The world's might gathered above Yang Kai's head turned into an inverted funnel, connecting the sky to the earth. The terrifying world's might made the two great emperors' faces turn solemn. As soon as the funnel appeared, it madly blasted down and directly connected with Yang Kai's body. At the same time, Yang Kai's body seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit, swallowing up the rich and surging world's might. A clear aura of the emperor realm rippled out, growing stronger and stronger. This? Duan Hongchen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What's going on? Is this brat courting death? Ha ha ha. Wukong laughed loudly. He overestimates himself and dares to compete with the heavenly might. Hongchen, this brat probably won't have the chance to surpass this king. He will definitely die like this. Duan Hongchen heard this and didn't refute. He just sighed and said, What a pity, what a pity. Normally, when he saw this scene, he might have helped Yang Kai because of his love for talent. However, at this moment, he was engaged in a fierce battle with Wukong, so he didn't have the spare energy to care about Yang Kai's business. Under this terrifying world's might, how could Yang Kai possibly survive? As he spoke, the commotion on the other side became more and more violent. The entire earth was shaking, and bottomless ravines appeared in this strange world, crisscrossing with each other. A roar suddenly came from the other side. At the same time, accompanied by a resounding dragon roar, a golden dragon phantom suddenly shot out from Yang Kai's body, shaking its head and wagging its tail as it met the world's might head-on. Golden divine dragon source. Wukong cried out in alarm, his voice trembling as if he had been greatly shocked. Impossible. Duan Hongchen also looked like he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. As soon as the golden dragon phantom appeared, it attracted most of the attention of the two great emperors, causing their focus to shift to Yang Kai, causing their expressions to change greatly. Who the hell is this kid? How can he have the golden divine dragon source? Wukong shouted, coldly snorted. For some reason, even if this king has became very agitated, I'll have to kill you
Duan
first.
Hongchen was
While the two were
absent-minded
talking
for a while before
the golden
he said,
divine dragon
How would
roared
this old
towards
man
the
know
sky.
about this?
Facing the
golden
terrifying
divine
world
dragon
energy
is
head-on,
the ancestor
from the
of the
dragon's
dragon's
mouth.
race.
An
Rumor
rumor
has
has
it
it that it was the one who
emerged,
gave birth to the
sucking
entire
in the
dragon
world
energy
race.
in large
However,
mouthfuls. After
before
giving birth
transmitting
to
it
the
to
dragon
Yang Kai,
race,
it
the
turned
pressure
into
on Yang
ashes.
Kai suddenly
How
lessened
can
a
the
lot.
golden divine dragon
Previously,
source still
he
exist
had
in
felt
this
that
world?
he could not hold on any longer. So he had been
hollow
forced to use the
sockets
golden
twitched like
divine
Willow,
dragon
the
source.
wisps.
But he had
not
not
expected
extremely
it to
greedy
have
look
such
on
a
his
miraculous
face.
effect.
If those old
It could
dragons
resist
on
the
Dragon
world
Island
energy.
knew about this,
This golden
I'm
holy
afraid
dragon
they would go
origin
crazy.
source was truly
What the hell are
extraordinary.
you planning?
As the dragon's
Duan
mouth
Hongchen
continued
suddenly
to
became
swallow,
alert. The
and
aura
turned
in
his
Yang
head to
Kai's
glare at
body grew
Wukong.
stronger and stronger, and his strength increased exponentially. He could not help but feel a sense of heroism, and his entire spirit seemed to have been refreshed. He did not know what it was like for others to break through to the Emperor realm, but he felt that if the other emperors from the Emperor realm he had encountered before had done the same, they would have all died long ago. He was probably the only one who could cause such a huge commotion when breaking through. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.